Early May 2024 with the Lovelocks in Sunninghill. Rough cut photo trails. And they will be rough cut as all ever. First of all, I'll give you the standard introduction. This is where we live at 22 Armitage Court in Sunninghill, with warning signs about fierce guards cats. And this is the spot where GPS was tested in the late 1980s onward. And down here is a bit of garden sculpture that June got Robin for a birthday present, coming up to 4 years ago. Yes, that's the oak tree that sprang up from an acorn. Cameras everywhere, got to be careful where I tread. Lots of work been going on in the garden. I've got a visitor who won't want to be on camera because this is all going public very soon. Okay, fair enough, you can be. This is Richard from across the road. You'll see him on various photo trails. This is the intro to the next 2 weeks. Right, you can follow me if you want to, but I'm not going to edit it. Right, so this is promotion of the website gpss.co.uk. Was a business decades ago, but in fact is now just hobbies and charitable causes. One of those important hobbies is the robot boat. You'll see more of that. Yes, bicycle, haven't had a chance of that. These are projects that were done in the last year or two. Somewhere to hide the dustbins. Forts for the pussycats, the armed cats, you might see them sometime. Armed mice. Yes, that's the stuff that appeared on the trails before. And so we're about to go through the house. But I'll point out a few things first. There'll be some health and safety warnings at the beginning, but one of the things I normally point out is the camper. That was used to take Snoopy's robot boat down to the coast for the last transatlantic attempt, and that battle damage. June said Robin did it. Robin said the wall did it, but the wall is okay. I wouldn't want to change that. Now, we're about to go into the house. Should have had the warning before we stepped on the property really, but there are warning signs everywhere. I must say these are just jokes, of course, so you don't have to take them too seriously. Yes, so CCTV, hidden TV cameras inside and outside this house. Sound and video is monitored in local houses and elsewhere. Quite recent one that. No trespassing. Violators will be shot, survivors will be shot again. Yes, there's cameras everywhere, but that's not the things you have to worry about. Yes, that was last Christmas thing, and I won't demonstrate this, but there's electronics everywhere. Yeah, peanuts out for the wildlife, you'll see plenty of that. Now this is probably quite an important sign here. Yes, do not disturb, I'm disturbed enough already, but that one has been there for a few years. Home of mad ex-NATO scientist Robin Lovelock, beware of web cameras and water squirters loaded with water, paint, acid, DNA tracer or nerve agent. Robin would not be mad enough to test these, or would he? There we go. Right, can I get in now? Yes, I can. So I'll venture into the house. So now, one of the reasons I put these together, these photo trails, is an aid to my memory, but also people who may be able to help us. So this is the kitchen, and yes, some improvements were made, a few, but still lots of work. June wants a new kitchen, and she had one in 1981, but that's not at the top list of the priorities at the moment. So here's June doing stuff there. Ladies stuff. Better get out as I get a good hiding. Yes, tennis on the television, as we would expect. There's lots of televisions in the house. Looks like that's a bit of cooking that Samantha's done. And right, quick glance at my study. That is a quick glance. Yes, that's as much as you're going to see. Because
GPS course 120, speed 0.1 knots, left 130.
So this is the Snoopy's robot boat. Snoopy Sloop 11 that survived some time at sea. That's come up to 2 years ago, and he will have another attempt at the Atlantic. And it hasn't changed much over quite a few years of prototyping. If I take that out, you can see he says it's not easy to do. There we go. Now, in the last few days, before actually doing the wiring for the spot tracker that was in the car, I should have pointed that, and there we go. Quick rush out. You can see it's unrehearsed, can't you? So there's the spot tracker, which is SATCOMs, not phone, and a little solar panel which is enough to keep that going. And so while lots of other things are on the go, the tracker is being tested all the time. So in here what we have is anybody visits the website, the Snoopy page, and they say, there it is at 22 Armitage Court, about there on the drive, and that's pretty close. And there's the details. It says Bagshot Road. That's because it doesn't have this on Street View, at least. Well, you can speculate about that. Anyway, that was the last update. And this is the lounge. There's the closed circuit TV, and my naughty corner where I tend to relax. So we had a bit of a diversion there, but so we're gradually making progress. The garden's in a good state compared with what it's been for many decades. Yeah, lots of hobbies up here. That was the red kites and the children's. There's pages of pictures and videos, all these hobbies. You see I'm getting distracted, but then some of these details will be of interest to some people. That was when I was into aerial photography. That was the tank factory at Chobham, and is now Longcross Studios. Now coming back to the robot boat. So yeah, that's a water squirter going off there. Probably my movement detected. So the software in this autopilot hasn't been changed for many years, been thoroughly tested. So this is the autopilot with its GPS and the computer driving the rudder servo, and at the moment, by default, because of where it is, it just chooses the Bray Lake, the first waypoint.
11 kilometers at 349 degrees. GPS course 123. Speed 0.1 knots.
So it's given a commentary. And what we have here, again, earlier photo trails show it, is this is just test equipment added for the purpose of testing, typically on Bray Lake. Mobius video camera gives you a view of what's happening, picks up the sound from the text to speech, which is being driven by the computer, and a GPS logger recording the position of the boat second by second. Now, basically, the photo trails will show that equipment can be easily pulled off, rather than it was sort of strapped on with elastic bands and things. But when the thing is actually ready to make an Atlantic attempt, it won't have any of that. It just unplugs, pulls away. Of course, it's been done so that the sail doesn't hit things. And that's the text-to-speech, but basically unplugs, and that cap, text-to-speech cap, screws on there so the whole thing's waterproof. And of course, this all goes on the top. So, lots of stuff about the robot boat. Yes, so there are other robot boats here, and there are other ones in the garden. That was from Alexei in Russia. A bright idea. Brilliant engineer. Yeah, friends everywhere, including Ukraine. So, yes, bit of tidying up. These are projects in progress, which are mostly related to the pond. I just see the pump has stopped working. and new stuff that's been there a long time, which is basically TVs and things. Just getting a glance of it. Yes, some of this stuff has been here for a year or two now. Lots of things to find better places, like the Three Wise Robins. So for the moment they're there. There's the barbecue, and we've just in the last few days, in early May, started to have barbecues here. So you'll see that. Right, so I'm trying making this a bit of a tour of the garden, grab the chance while I can. And yes, there's a 12 volt DC pump there. I can see a newt down there, and tadpoles starting to appear. Obviously it's almost day by day you see things shooting up. There's my old telescope that I built as a schoolboy, the optics. Various bits and pieces like the tube and the mountain have changed over the years. No work being done on that. That is wild fennel. Literally, we brought that back from Sicily. Lovely flavouring for things like pasta con sarde. And of course, a lot of this is not much changed, but yes, I need to cut the lawn, but what's more important is you get the grass to grow. This is the sundial. I don't know how many decades ago I put it, and that's been, you'll see the details of checking that out. So the time now, I'm finding it difficult to reading my watch. That's broken. The strap. But basically you say, that's about roughly 1 o'clock GMT, 2 o'clock British summertime. And so they're just glued in place. I've just taken a quick trail down this duck pond. Hasn't had ducks, but probably won't. I don't like the idea of trapping anything in. So we're going down the garden now. So all the water off the roof flows into the top pond, overflows into the second pond, the so-called duck pond, if you call it that. If that overflows, it then comes down into something which has only been done in the last few weeks and months, which is the reservoir. It's not a pond, is it? June wouldn't like that idea. For the bog garden. So bog loving plants are here, and the most obvious one is the giant rhubarb, or manticata, or Gunra manticata. And here is the cherry tree, and yes, it's starting to... Did I say a cherry tree? Stupid boy. Hawthorn. And hawthorn, we've got quite a few of those being put in as to provide some protection for birds who might nest in it, or nest in things like bird boxes behind. So coming through here, yeah, lots of stuff flowering up. Yeah, the roses are going up nicely. Compost heap and June's washing line. I sometimes misuse those. You'll see those on the recent photo trail for what I leave drying. Yeah, health and safety reasons. Through here, junk, and that is stuff to be thrown away, except apart from these containers, of course. And yeah, solar powered shed. And the trouble is that things tucked away here, and the strategy that I tried to adopt, best part of a year ago now, is for things to be out in the open. So we're looking for something, rather than try and remember where it is, you can just look. And of course, if somebody's helping you, and there's lots of work needs to be done in, not so much maintaining the garden, but certainly the house. This is my laboratory. Yes, that hasn't been tidied up. Lots of cupboards put in, but things have got to be put in the right places. And yes, bits of robot boats, all of which are usable. Like when we lose that boat, the one that you've seen, all the stuff needed to make another one. And lots of spare saws and things, some of which will be thrown away. and some I've made use of. Through to the workshop, and through here, little wild patch, and a way out. Yeah, so lots of tidying up needed, and the process which I'm hoping we'll gradually make progress with is putting things in places we can find them, and when we find something that can clearly be thrown away, then we do throw it away. This is a nice little spot to relax. Again, very untidy stuff there. Most are complete. Walk around here. June's greenhouse. Yeah, not much has been done on that recently. And yeah, cameras everywhere. And through round to the sourdough house. Materials being stored here basically, and through to where we started, just here. So some of these things will make people's brains hurt, but I think I'm getting to the stage you'll be relieved to know that we can then run into these long photo trails. And so we'll start with that. And I warn you, they are long photo trails, even though there's a rough voice commentary on them. So before I do that, I just see we have got some fish that we put in there, and they are getting to the stage of starting to come for food. But the key thing is deterring the heron, who took most of them. So we've got various experimental things to do that. So into those long photo trails. Wednesday the 1st of May 2024. 13 minutes of photos, including this 3-minute summary at the start. Yes, there's the pussycats, and including Toadie, and lots of things happened on that day all together. June and Samantha took a short notice game of tennis, which rather complicated the arrangement for getting Michelle to Gatwick, which should have gone by public transport, but in the end June had to take her to Gatwick Airport. But the communications were good, able to track the flight, got there, and of course it was pub lunch day as well, so Stuart was chauffeur to the Red Lion. Enjoyable meal and conversations there. Yes, they had Doom Bar up to Richard's expectations, and yeah, the bill was a little more than what we were expecting, but then again, you get what you pay for. Then coffee back at Richard and Faye's. As I say, lots of things going on at the same time. I noticed that the water squirter had stopped, and so needed to change the battery. Also, the gutters were blocked, and of course when it rains, the water from the roof goes into the pond. COVID page needed an update because the ONS had released the total deaths, which is important far beyond COVID. Then at the back end, June's rustled up food. I put the peanuts out, and yes, June's playing video games and watching TV. I decide we've run out of puddings, so I take a walk down to Tesco Express, buy a few of those, bought a few other things as well, like brioche buns, and back home. Needed the exercise, of course. Yes, got the bill. I doubt if June would pay me for it though. And yeah, but at least I was having puddings while I was doing things like the closed circuit TV check for the night. Guest visits by foxes and hedgehogs to the front porch for the peanuts that have been left out, and the fox for the peanuts on the top bridge just outside the patio door. Time for bed, and that's not the end of the photo trail, because I got up due to the thunderstorm, which is pretty rare in Sunninghill, and so It was expected that night from the checks before, but I also found the website which has the actual lightning strikes, and Toadie joined me. So then I got back to bed. I still got plenty of sleep that night. So now into the photos in the order they were shot, and it will be confusing because so many things were going on at the same time. So yes, the women at tennis, I say the women, that is Samantha and June, took that tennis game at very short notice, day before. Obviously didn't tell me about it, but I found out from Michelle, who was ready to go. She would have got a lift to Ascot Station, taking public transport. Yeah, so popped out in the garden, checked a few things like the sundial. That looks as though that watch was upside down there. Anyhow, yeah, so pretty well that's all. No real work to be done. I'd cut the lawn the day before, so it was a little neater than it had been. Just took the chance to take a few snaps. And back into the games room. Yes, there's Bentley in his favourite position, or one of his favourite positions, watching what I was up to there and looking out the window. So that's the games room. Yes, that's into the hall, and then into the lounge, and Robin's naughty corner. There's Michelle waiting to go with Lady. Lady was going to stay with us. So that's the flight. Michelle gave me the details of the flight, and yes, I made sure there were some notes in the diary because there was nothing in there before. And yeah, that's the women on their way back from tennis. So Michelle's ready, says bye-bye to Bentley, and women arrive. So they unload their tennis gear, and a minute or two in the house, I check the tracker. That's the one that's going in the robot boat, and yes, the tracker shows them back. So that means that Michelle can get in the car and be taken this time. There wasn't time to go by public transport, so June was taking her directly to Gatwick. 40 minutes to an hour run. And Toadie's guarding the premises with others, including armed mice. Yes, beware anything decides to visit. So I go back, check the progress. There they are, on the way out. Oh yeah, as a reminder, it's pub lunch. So lots of things happening at the same time. June is on her way to Gatwick. I had a chat with, or left a message for John Sylvester, and yeah, so they're making good progress, no delays on the way to Gatwick Airport, and I'm ready here. I can relax, and I'm ready I can watch what's happening, of course. Yes, there's Stuart arrived. It's going to be chauffeur, and so yeah, and they're still making progress there, and we're off to the Red Lion. Yeah, lovely place. And yes, we previously checked, they did have the Doom Bar available, and a few snaps there, including, I have a quite modest food, but just that's the different things they're eating and drinking, of course. And yeah, enjoyable conversations and food there. Yes, there's the tab. Some people looked at it closely compared with some cheaper places, but cheap is often what you get, if you get that. Anyhow, checking trackers. Yes, that's anybody interested to say, oh, it looks like Robin or his tracker spent some time at the Red Lion, and looking at the time of the day, perhaps they had a lunch there and got back home just here.
But then went across the road. Yes, meanwhile there's chats going on the family WhatsApp group with Michelle, and yeah, over at Richard and Faye's for coffee and bickies and the cake and things. Looks as though rain might have been wanting to come on, so I checked the rain radar, and also of course checked the progress of the flight, because Michelle had sent a message through giving the details of the flight number. That wasn't in the diary, of course. Oh yeah, I had a chat with Paul, and yeah, so got there okay. And what I'm doing there is changing the batteries in one of the water squirters. There's only one water squirter covering the pond, need more, and that was then working, but I thought I'd position it better. It was getting a problem with vegetation triggering it, and that's probably one of the reasons batteries were running flat. June is playing video games and watching TV just for a change. Water squirter seems to be okay there now. And also I thought I'd better check the drainage of the gutters, because the gutters were blocked. And so I basically did the best I could quickly to clear most of the leaves, and it was enough. So water flowing on the roof going around that route goes into the pond. So a bit more work on the that was the COVID graph update, total deaths. Printed a copy as well, and yeah, that's the water coming out, and now that pond's topped up, so it's overflowing and going down, so that's all working as it should. So when we get the rain, that means practically all the water off our roofs will go into the top pond and then overflow down. And I decided those logs, which seemed a good idea, didn't help at all. I thought it would make that duck pond's fence, not that there are any ducks in it, a little better, but it didn't, so I removed those and put them down the end. We decided somewhere to put it. Back end of the day, so June's rustled up food, and I take it into the naughty corner in the lounge to eat. Every now and again you pop out and do something outside, like put out the peanuts, only takes a few minutes, on the top ridge and at the front porch, make sure there's plenty of them. And yes, then I decided to pop down to the village, because we seem to run out of a few things, brioche buns and mostly the cheesecake puddings and things like that. And Jew was going to do the big shop the next day, but I thought, no, why not go down to the village? And I collected the receipt for it, but I know June's not going to pay me, so what's the matter? Did the closed circuit TV check for the night, starting from midnight running forward. Yes, visit from foxes. These aren't all the visits, but representative, because every now and again you get an unusual visit. There's 2 foxes, there's a hedgehog, this is on the front porch, through to when the cameras switch at 04:23 GMT to colour for the day. So I'm now running backwards from midnight. Yeah, it's a hedgehog on the front porch, and that looks like a fox on the top bridge. There's a fox at the front. The cameras switch to black and white for the night at 19:41 GMT. Time for bed. However, we had a thunderstorm, which is very rare for Sunninghill, so that woke me up, and I thought, oh yes, well, it's half expected. So came down and was checking the websites that predicted rain, and also didn't take a moment to find a website that had the lightning strikes. That used to be on the Met Office site, but sadly, although they've made improvements, that is no longer available. And of course, yes, things were as expected. So that's that other website. A few words about them. And yeah, looked at the predictions of what the rain was going to do. So yeah, totally joined me. So back to bed. Got plenty of sleep that night, even though that lost an hour of it coming down. and that's the end of the photo trail. Thursday the 2nd of May 2024, 13.5 minutes of photos, including this 2-minute summary at the start. Yeah, glimpses of the pussycats. Lots happened that day, of course. A little bit of work on the boat, mostly deciding I need a platform to support the test equipment when it's doing a Bray Lake test. And the women went off shopping to Addleston, and of course the trackers told me basically that they got there and when they come back, and the street view actually revealed in slower time that it was the Oxfam shop, and I'd misheard what they said, why they were going to Addleston for the big shop. Not to worry. That's June and myself off. We decided to go to the Craft and Design Fair at Wisley. We've never been to one of those, and of course June's a member, got a family membership. And so we had a lovely walk round. Obviously there's the historic place and the gardens, but it was the site for lots of craftsmen, I would put it, and craftswomen from quite long distances. Some of them had come some distance to exhibit there, and it was really interesting. Yes, and some of them were still at work, including a blacksmith, I think the old word is. Some very interesting garden ornaments. Obviously pricing reflects the marketplace, and the lizards gave me a bright idea, which I in fact ordered when I got back for our garden. Not much needed in that now, a little bit of decoration, but mostly deciding where to put things. So yes, tracker showed us we got back just here, and women June watches the tennis. I had a problem with my camera, and I squirted some WD-40 on it. It sounds a bit daft, but it had worked in the past. Basically a sticky shutter. Closed circuit TV check at the back end of the day. The hedgehogs come in for the peanuts, foxes sometimes both at the same time. Front porch, and also the top bridge just outside the patio door of the lounge. Yes, Toadie on duty, hoping to catch a mouse. Glimpse of a bat. Happens occasionally. So that was the closed circuit TV check, yeah. And everybody's relaxing, including June watching tennis and playing the video game. So time for bed, and that's the end of the summary. So now into the photos in the order they were shot. And of course quite a lot of things didn't happen in the obvious order, certainly when it came to taking photos. Anyhow, I was thinking, yeah, the next job is probably to make a platform for the test equipment, and there's the GPS logger. I'll charge that up, and that test equipment has to go on the back of the boat during the Bray Lake tests. Anyhow, so not sure where we are now. This is probably the women have gone off for shopping, so I take a few snaps. I noticed that the car had been leaking water stained with oil, so I flagged that up to June when she got back. Yeah, I thought I'd put the peanuts out a bit earlier in the day, but why not? Make sure there's plenty of peanuts there, and they do. Certainly various wildlife eats it, including the birds. Yeah, I looked on the tracker. That's a public tracker, the white one, and if June's got it with her, shows her progress, updating several times a minute. So they're well on their way to Addleston, which is where they said they'd go shopping. And when I asked, I misheard. I thought they said something for the TV, but it wasn't TV, it was charity. And I found that out later. So that's sort of looking at the information on the tracker, and Street View reveals basically where the tracker said they stopped, and a bit more of that later when I looked in a bit more detail. Yeah, so now looking on the other tracker, this is the spot tracker that's going into the boat, and it's tested in June's car, and that's working well. A little bit of processing a video from the day before, a bit like I'm doing now. This looks as though they're on their way back. And yes, I'm looking at what materials, and the trouble is, probably June can be blamed, but basically we've got so much junk, it all been piled up, and what I was looking for was right at the bottom of a pile. Yes, there's Bentley relaxing on one of the cars. Yes, I put the spade which I saw in the front porch. I know what it'd been used for, cleaning up the porch. Put it in the right place. June and Samantha are back from the shopping. Bentley is supposed to be on guard duty, but is practically sleeping on the top of one of the cars. Yes, here they are, they got back. Hello, Bentley. So give him a bit of a hand with the shopping, getting it into the kitchen. But he says, yes. Then I looked, and sure enough, the street view did reveal that they'd been into Oxfam, or visited outside, walking that is. And I thought, no, that's going to be a bit too difficult. And I thought, oh well, I could do a bit of tidying up. So cutting up the empty cardboard boxes that just left lying around, be a good boy, cut them up, watched by Lady looking out the window and Bentley, and put those into the correct waste bin behind the hides. Yes. And what have we got next? Oh, a squirrel seen out the window feeding on the peanuts during the day, and looks like, could that be looking at light outside? It's middle of the day. So, oh yes, June showed me a couple of cans of paint that I thought were no good, and I just hadn't simply followed the instructions on the can to remove those plastic rings, and then of course they work well. Now originally they were doing that. I'm not sure that was a good idea, but I sprayed some of it. No, it wasn't a good idea, but that concrete can be cleared later. So I put those two cans, which work, in the right place with other paint, and then we decided to go to this craft and design fair at Wisley, the RHS, Royal Horticultural Society College, I think. And so we're on our way, past a few landmarks, including through Sunninghill, past that old place, into Chobham, through Chobham, glimpse of the river, a few other interesting landmarks, including the cannon and the church. Over, that's the River Way, I think, because we're now getting, or is that canal? Anyway, we've arrived at Wisley. Yeah, there's a glimpse of the college from the car park, out the old buildings, and then we had a lovely walk around all the exhibits, and of course guys had come from quite long distances. It was great chatting to some of them, and yeah, there's a few maps showing the route around. That was an interesting visit. In the old days you call them a blacksmith, but it's much more than that. And loads of interesting artifacts. Gives us ideas, of course, but there's not much new stuff we need in the garden. It's mostly a case of putting stuff in the right place, either to find it because it's tools or materials, or of course decorations that we've accumulated over the years. Lots of different examples of lovely stuff, and of course pricing reflects that. Now that's what gave me the idea, lizards. And in fact when we got back I did actually order a couple online, obviously coming out of somewhere cheap out on the Far East. Yeah, so glimpses of no little ducklings. There had been loads of those only a couple of weeks earlier. So now we're making our way back. Yeah, that's over the, yes, past the Anchor pub, I think, through Chobham. Yes, that reminder, there's the Chobham Carnival coming up in a few days. And into Sunninghill, over the level crossing, into Armitage Court, to number 22. Toadie decided to have lunch. Looked at the trackers. Yes, it showed the trip. That's the spot tracker, the one that's going in the boat. That all seems to be working well. Anybody can look at it. Now I looked at my personal tracker. Again, that's on the public page. So tapped on that. Logged into the site actually to get this historical data. Otherwise you just see it live. Yeah, I showed the walk around and back home to just here. And June's watching the tennis and playing the video game and looking after Lady. Not that Lady needs. I had the bright idea. I had trouble with the camera that I've been using for years, and it was a shutter sticking, and I had used WD-40 on them before. Not a good idea, of course, but then those cameras, you can't buy them, let alone getting them repaired at a sensible price. So looks like that's dinner for the evening, and I take that into the naughty corner in the lounge. Have my dinner, then do the closed circuit TV check, starting from midnight, running forward. Hedgehogs coming for the peanuts on the front porch. As always, these aren't all the visits, they're just representative of what I see on that day or night. There's a fox sharing peanuts. 2 hedgehogs are a bit too much for him, but he doesn't mind taking his turn. And that's the top bridge, and there's a hedgehog coming for the peanuts there. Then it started to belt down rain. That was the thunderstorm the previous night. That was in the previous photo trail. There's a fox coming for the peanuts on the top bridge. There he is again, or a different one perhaps. And through to when the camera switched at 04:35 GMT to colour for the day. So now it's going from midnight back and pointing out there's a glimpse of a mouse. It's obviously very fast moving, but not many things that small. And there's Toadie hanging around hoping to catch a mouse. And there's a bat, glimpse of a bat, a few frames there coming across the screen. No, he didn't go to the food bowl, food bowl. And that's me getting back from somewhere, I think. Night before. This is 1943 with the camera switched to black and white for the night. And there's Lady on sentry duty looking out the front window, and Bentley, and June watching TV. So time for bed, and that's the end of the photo trails. Friday the 3rd of May 2024, less than 10 minutes of photos, including this 2-minute summary at the start. Yes, glimpses of the pussycats, just for a change, and lots of things, as often is the case, happened that day. I was able to make some progress on the robot boat, which was basically a better solution of a mount for the test equipment, and those arrived through the post. So I found a place to stick them, literally. And what else happened? Oh yes, everything was overseen by Toadie. And we took a walk down to the Bansals and had a lovely time there. Yeah, lots of interesting things and some nice, whatever they are, onion barges. And shown some stuff as well. And there was Romeo. So came back home, continued with odds and ends, including putting the peanuts out, making sure there's plenty of those, both at the front and on the back top bridge. And of course a problem came up, I think due to company acquisitions, but anyhow, called to say dinner was ready, so ate that in the naughty corner, did the closed circuit TV check for the night, and of course saw all things live, including foxes and hedgehogs coming for the peanuts at the front porch, and also the top bridge just out the back. And some of this was watched by Toadie, and June was watching with Lady occasionally, Superman, and yes, that's Lady. So time for bed, and that's the end of the summary. So now in the photos in the order they were shot, and there's Toadie watching what I was doing on the robot boat, and I decided that with a bit of plywood, yes, done carefully, I could make a better solution as a removable platform for the test equipment when the boat is tested on Bray Lake. So those include a GPS logger, a Mobius video camera, and the text-to-speech unit, which enables you to hear the thing speaking. And of course it reinforced the same old problem of where do you find the tools and material. As it happened, the brass tube that I ended up using is the same stuff that is used for the rudder shaft. Anyhow, it was a case of thinking on the fly and coming up with a solution such that the platform with those pegs underneath it, if you call it that, made of brass tubes, or rather the bolts, slid into brass tubes inside the hull. Obviously all done carefully and sealed with sealant. So that's the main solution, and of course using smelly resin at one point, fast glass resin. So open all the necessary doors and close other doors. And yes, Bentley's asleep on the windowsill looking out over the back garden, which is in the games room of where I'm doing the work, if you call it work. So gradually making our set. Yeah, so the only thing is I needed the camera mount, and the one I had was rusty, but I found one amongst the junk, robot boat junk. So that's the old one, but that new one is much better. I say new, but it's been there for years. It's just it hadn't got so badly corroded. So that was a good solution. So it was a case of then fitting that, and it's a question of where things are actually mounted. And I was going to put the Mobius video camera there. Originally it had been bolted on the lid, but so I was thinking, where's the best place for that to be put where it gets good visibility looking forward? And I decided that was about the right position, that rather than put it on the platform, I'd make mounts for that separately. And it's the same principle, which is you find in the materials you need. In this case that was brass nuts and bolts that went into the mount after I drilled holes, and slid into brass tubes let carefully into the hull in the right places. And I thought, those are called stays, I think. I'd get mixed up, or sheets, bits of string they needed trimming. And I thought, well, as well paint it. It's been sealed okay, painted it, and that slips in place. But he says this problem had come up, which is one of my hostings that have been used for years was no longer working. They sent a message saying you followed it up but didn't give the answers. But anyhow, that was dealt with as best I could, which is getting somebody else, another business, to handle it if they will. So lots of things going on. Oh yes, decided to glue those in place. I was thinking of them being painted, but that's what I use for gluing them in place. I thought those big bare slate slabs would look better with something on them, and that was a cheap solution. There's Toadie watching what's going on in the garden. He often spends time, particularly at night, hanging out hoping that mice will appear. So we took a walk down to the Bansells. They had rung earlier for a cup of coffee, see Romeo and Raj, and yes, onion barges, and they were very good. So it wasn't just coffee, it was onion barges, and Val had some amusing stuff to show us including June. So I left there, June not long after, and yeah, back home, thought, I might as well put the peanuts out now. So most of them had gone on the front porch. You can see the before and after of putting the peanuts out. And yeah, checked on the tracker. Yes, anybody could see he spent some time there. I wonder what that is. Then back home, just here. So what's next? Oh yes, that problem came up. And it turned out it was somebody had been hosting my website for years, and well, I won't bother to go into the detail here. If you freeze the frame, you can probably read some of it that might be relevant, and a lot of that information's been public for years. Anyhow, I was called for dinner. The dinner was ready, so I pick it up and take it into the naughty corner in the lounge where the seating is far more comfortable, and while I'm eating I can watch whatever's happening on the closed circuit TV. And then of course I do the check from midnight running forward. Foxes at this time of the year and hedgehogs coming for the peanuts, and also on the back porch triggering the PIR light near the top bridge. And yeah, through till when the cameras switch at 04:43 GMT to colour for the day. So I'm now running backwards from midnight. Yes, there's a young fox. I think he was a little nervous, but kept on looking around. And then two foxes, they seem to get on okay, sharing the peanuts. And then a hedgehog triggers the PIR light. These aren't all the events, but representative. Through till going backwards 1936 GMT when the cameras switched from colour to black and white for the night. And a lot of this is watched by Toadie, and June is watching Lady some of the time with her, Superman. And there's a fox live, and there's Toadie looking for mice, I think, and a hedgehog at the same time, and Toadie decides to leave. Yes, it's Superman that June's watching, and Lady joins her. I find it rather boring, so I reckon it's time to go up. So that's the end of the photo trail. Saturday the 4th of May 2024. 15.5 minutes of photos, including this 3-minute summary at the start. Yes, Toadie had found out that good spot in the laundry basket, and quite a lot of work done on the robot boat. It was mostly all connected with the well, that day's work was mostly the Mobius camera, getting a decent place to fit it, and then checking out what field of view it had, including when the sails moved in either direction, and that was good. Yeah, a little bit of work in the garden, including I think we timed it was 10 minutes work with June, me cutting up and June dumping the stuff. Yeah, it was near the hour, so checked the time. Yes, that's right, 11 o'clock GMT is about 10 o'clock BST, is it? No, the other way round. Stupid boy. And right, that was given to me by Stuart, and I checked it out, and the light was on all the time, and so it's still a useful product, but maybe somebody can get it working. I don't mind giving them a £5, since you can buy them for about £20. Right, so then that's there's a tennis match. I wasn't told about it, of course, but that's the way it is. And I thought, time to give my car a run. And then while you're letting the engine tick over, you see things, and you see some oil, and I think, I couldn't find that 3-in-1 oil, but I found a place for it on the boat, basically lubricating the mast. Yes, and I also stumbled on that. must have been picked up from Holland on one of our trips in more recent years, still decades ago. Ah yes, and that sundial, that could be improved. I found a bit of scrap plastic on a junk pile. It didn't take very much work, and that reads the temperature quite well, and later I did actually check it. That was like the women, June and Samantha, are on the way back from their tennis match. So yeah, they got back okay. And then of course the tracker in there, that's the spot tracker that's going in the boat, so I was able to check that. Anybody could look at it just by going to the Snoopy robot boat page, and yeah, that looked good, giving good positions. And yes, so then looking at the work, and it's been connected with a better solution for platforms. And the question is, and June actually had some stuff in her makeup, little plastic bottles, a solution for the cable that comes out to the text-to-speech unit. Anyhow, put the peanuts out, and I made a note there because I only then found out that Michelle was flying back from Norway. There was a video, that was the next day, and so video WhatsApp chat with family, including Michelle from Norway. And yeah, a little bit of work on the boat. It's dark, of course, able to put that bottle top in place. Time to eat. Look at things happening on the closed circuit TV, including the foxes coming for the front and at the back, hedgehogs, and sometimes as many as 2 hedgehogs eating peanuts at the same time as the fox. Fox decided, no, too much competition. But in fact, I had finished my closed circuit TV check early, and so we're now into the full photo trail. That was the end of the summary, and yes, Toadie has found a place which Bentley had found much earlier, which is the laundry basket. So I'm looking at the robot boat, and basically a case of picking up the tools. And I said to June, I reckon in 10 minutes, and it was about 10 minutes, if I do the clipping of the reeds and things that were obscuring the paths, and she dumps it, and that's what we did. And it was no more than about 10 minutes work. That included getting the tools out and putting the tools back. Not that many tools. Oh yes, the water squirter, that seems to be working okay. Only got one water squirter there. And yes, it was getting near near 11 British summertime, which would be, oh no, I read that wrong. That was whatever it was. You look at those frames. It might have been 11:30 in the morning BST, 10:30 GMT. Yeah, a few more pictures. Stuff coming along nicely in the garden, including the bog garden down the end and the hawthorn beginning to sprout and flower even soon. And there's the compost heap, and time to relax in the sun. Quite pleasant it was, so had a bit of relaxation. And then took a look at that Mobius camera, and so I've now got a decent mounting for it on the boat. It just pops into position much better than what I had been doing. And yeah, just tidying up with sealant and things. So what's next? Yeah, relaxation going on there. Oh yes, that Stuart gave me that LED floodlight, as it's called, and I couldn't get it to do more. It was easy to add some wire to it and put it onto 12 volts. Yeah, chat with Stuart, he said, oh yeah, it was effectively brand new, so don't know what the problem was with it. I mean, it's still a useful thing, but somebody who's got the time would probably get it working. Maybe Richard. And yeah, I did actually Google up, and I found the same product. I think what I found on Amazon was less than £20, but still still good. Then the Mobius camera, so I thought, right, by plugging it in I can offload a test video which I shot. I had to use the right cable that had been labelled, and simply plugged it in to the lounge PC and was able to go to the folder of videos and play the video I just tested, or just done for testing. And yes, the field of view was good, so including swinging the sails in either direction, they don't obscure what the camera's seeing, so it's probably a better position than before. Then Junior rustled up the scrambled egg and salmon on toast for lunch, and ladies relaxing. Oh yes, email exchanges with La Riva in Sicily, booking, and June said she found out that you could use an old banana skin to clean one's shoes. Well, I did try, it didn't work very well, so put it in the food waste. Yeah, a bit of relaxation in the sun, and I think that is June and Samantha going off for a tennis match that had been sorted out at short notice. And yes, so the tracker, June's personal tracker, showed them there, so that was working fine, and of course gives them a bit of warning when they're coming back. And then I looked at the spot tracker. That's the one that is being tested in the car, but is going into the boat when the boat's ready for it. There's Bentley patrolling around. I decided, about time I let the engine run in the car that's off the road at the moment, so the battery doesn't go flat. And then I saw that motor oil, and I thought, a little drop of that, not very much, where the mast goes in to the deck, and then the mast can rotate as another means of the sails swinging. Under very light winds that becomes useful. And I also saw that large saw that had been in the garage all this time, and I thought, well, maybe I could do something with it, but at least I could hang it up, but needed a screw. There we are. So now that's in a more sensible place. I also found that old clog, and I think we must have bought that decades ago on a trip to Holland rather than when we were out there in the 70s. And I thought, it makes a good bird feeder, and it's another little conversation item. And I saw that rather untidy solution of whatever it was, white duct tape behind the thermometer, and I found an old bit of scrap plastic on their junk heap, and that made a good job. A little bit of spray just for the transparent bit at the side, and then put the remains back in the right place and the paint back in the right place in the workshop. All that hard work. So yeah, and that worked very well. Like Toady prowling around. So the car's been running long enough. Turn that off, close the garage door, and yeah, look at the women. Yes, they're still at tennis. They're on their way back. But, he says, well, not necessarily but, I was just saying, at least I can look busy when they get back. Yes, here they are. So I was out there before they arrived. So they get out. I think they lost their tennis match, which was only sorted out the day before. And then say, if you look in the car, that's the tracker. I've got a small solar panel on it as well. So it may not need the batteries changing or recharging very often. And yes, that worked well. That was that was June's tracker. Now looking at the spot tracker, and that's the one that's getting in the boat, and that showed positions correctly, so that's working good. And what we're doing now, possibly a bit more work on the boat, and so I think we've got most of the things sorted, which is a better solution for when it's tested on Bray Lake. There's a little platform that pushes it. Now June found some little, I was looking for some small, a small cap and bottle, smaller than the usual lemonade bottle, that might be a means of providing a exit for the servo wire that drives the text to speech during testing, and so it was quite a fiddly job, and at the end result it's effectively glued there with sealant. Maybe got a chance to explain it here, but basically a neater solution. Putting the peanuts out, plenty of them at the front porch and at the back. And what's next? Oh yes, the thermometer. Yes, that reads just about coming up to 15 degrees, and that matches up the what it says on the Met site for the temperature at about then. And I thought, out of curiosity, what it would be like up in Trondheim, where Michelle is, and it was a couple of degrees warmer. And of course, stupid me, it was only then, when speaking to June, I found out that Michelle was flying back that next morning. Anyway, we had a video WhatsApp chat with family, including Michelle in Trondheim, and looked at the possibility of visiting an NGS place near Gatwick, but that all depended on how Michelle felt. Anyhow, it's getting late in the day, so things like the solar light has come on, but with the aid of a lamp I was able to do a bit more gluing, if that's the right word, and making sure that yes, there's a hole there that the wire can go through. That's a job to be done in daylight, I think. And there's Lady, Michelle's pussycat. So Lady's only with us for another day. And there's Toadie, dozing as usual. June's rustled up pizza, and take that into the naughty corner. And yes, that was probably a conversation related to problems with one of our service providers, internet service providers. And yeah, there's the fox. There's several different foxes coming to the front porch and the rear, and unfortunately I wasn't able to complete the closed circuit TV check, but I mean, it was pushed for time anyhow. That's good. 2 hedgehogs sharing the peanuts with a fox. The fox thought, no, not enough room for me to eat peanuts, I'll wait. So that was 0417, but the camera was playing up. So anybody interested could read that frame there with my notes before I took the photos. So time for bed, and that's the end of the photo trail. Monday the 6th of May 2024. Over 11 minutes of photos, including this 2-minute summary at the start. Yes, that's Bentley sleeping in the basket. And yeah, what else happened? A lot happened that day. And yeah, there's Bentley watching some of it, and made some good progress on the robot boat on that platform. And yeah, you see the photos pretty well show the process of putting it together. The platform was just for test purposes on Bro Lake, to hold the GPS logger and the text-to-speech unit, and there's a separate mount for the camera. Oh yes, and even though there was rain, I managed to put a bit of seed and soil down, but he said make sure you put tools and materials back in the right place. And there's Bentley watching the work going on, and I made a little bit of progress on that telephone cable. Lots of things going on. June ordered a little water pump, 12 volts, very cheap, and that might be a solution for the pond. And yes, finding various tools all the time and materials not where expected. Back end of the day, eating in the naughty corner, able to do the closed circuit TV test for the previous night, seeing anything interested. Yeah, usual visits by foxes for the peanuts at the front, and the hedgehog. Hedgehog often takes priority. Hedgehogs don't like, or rather foxes don't like tangling with a hedgehog. There's a fox at the top bridge behind. There's a little
young fox, a bit timid, probably worried about cats or hedgehogs. And yeah, even though it was late, yeah, June's watching something on the TV, not sure what it was, and yeah, time for bed. That's the end of the summary. So now into the photos in the order that they are shot, starting with Bentley, who likes that laundry basket in the utility room, and yeah, pretty well drizzle all day, and so I suppose it was one reason why there wasn't much else I could do other than work on the robot boat, but that's been queued up for ages. Yes, there's still a bit of work because it was very light drizzle. I thought, I could do a bit of work out in the garden, just checking that the water off the roof is actually going into the pond, and I thought, yes, I could put some more grass seed down, which I had, and some soil over the top of it. Compost, I think the word is. Yes, doing the video for the day before, like I'm doing for this one. And yeah, so it's all a matter of when you stumble on materials looking for something else, you say, perhaps I could do that job. And make sure you put things back in the right place where they can easily be found. So there's Bentley watching. Yeah, what do you think of that, Bentley? All right, he said. And what often happened is I went out looking for some material, and then I found something else. I thought, that'll be useful. Yeah, so one or two pictures of plants coming up nicely in the garden. Oh, those lizards, they're a bit brightly coloured, but one could always make them look more realistic with time. There's Bentley prowling around. So yeah, so that's the platform. The text-to-speech unit, that's the actual unit that's been used, and it's in a little box with its own battery, but the idea is to be able to plug it into a, right, what's this? Oh, that's what I stumbled on in the shed, and I thought, yeah, why not put it down? So sprinkle some of that grass seed down, you can see the brand, and then some of the compost over the top of it. Make sure you put things in the right place. I found that trowel in the shed, so I put it in a more visible place, and then I watered it in, even though we had rain, but make sure it's in there. And of course the rain, that's an outstanding job. The soak away is not soaking away. And what's going on at the moment, yeah, looks like Bentley came in for lunch, and just for a change. And then Toadie and Bentley are play fighting. That's in the games room. Bentley saying, nah, I'll just look out the window. And yes, then he thought, what are you up to, Robin? So he starts prowling on the table, and of course Toadie's there, so they're looking at each other. And yeah, I've been hard. Oh yes, that was the thing. I spent ages messing around trying to do that job. Should be an easy job. Made a bit of progress on it. It was yeah, so at least it's better than it was. What it showed up is how fiddly a job it was without the right tools or experience. Yes, now that pump, that's the mains driven pump, and I thought, June was able to order a product for delivery the next day, and that 12-volt water pump, £12, and so I just made sure I got all the bits and pieces. Probably carrying on the boat now. Yes, there's Bentley. And so this is for, yes, we were toying with the idea of going out to somewhere local, like Halfords, but then June said, there's what you're looking for in the games room. So that is the solar panel, little one, put on the end of the, whatever you call that,
test equipment platform. Don't forget it's only put on for tests on Bray Lake. So that's wired in to the appropriate connector, and also I put a couple of monitor points so you can easily check the voltage, which would be the voltage of the battery of what's connected. So, oh yes, that spent ages. We found some blades for the Stanley knife, I think that's the right word for it, obviously they're different brands, and it took ages to get them out of the little plastic box, but they were the right ones, compatible, so I put them where they belonged, inside the handle, and could throw the plastic box away. Right, looks like June's rustled up dinner for the evening, and so I take that into the naughty corner, and of course also popping backwards and forwards because I use that smelly isopon resin to for the little, yeah, that unused bottle goes into the waste, but the key thing is the cap of it. It was some old nail varnish that had run out of June's, and that was a useful thing. So put the peanuts out. As I say, these photos are the order they were shot, and not maybe very confusing as we're jumping between subjects. So that is, I called it the text-to-speech cap holder. So it's the right size, that the cap that screws onto the front of the box to stop water getting into where the text-to-speech plug is, so you don't lose the cap, you can push it on the holder. So now going into the closed circuit TV checks for the night, starting from midnight forward, and yes, the usual visits by foxes. Occasionally you get something different, and that's why I do the check. And foxes of different ages and experience. That's a young fox on the right, and they generally get on together. There's a hedgehog coming for the peanuts, and generally when the hedgehog is there, he tends to take priority. The foxes say no. Some of them will share it. There's a hedgehog triggering the PIR light on the top bridge just outside the lounge patio door, and there is a glimpse of a mouse. Very difficult to see with an individual frame, but the movement and the flash of the eye is very, very small. And there's a fox again on the top bridge. And what else? So that's from another camera. There's a fox looking at himself in the mirror, and that's the end. Yes, that's when the cameras switched 0428 GMT to colour for the day. So I'm now going from midnight backwards. There's a young fox. Hello young Mr. Fox or Mrs. Fox. And yeah, various things happening at the same time. Yeah, it looks like he shot off probably because, it was me getting back from the Comrades Club, I think, and wherever. So 1949 GMT is where the cameras switched to black and white for the night. So a little bit more work on the boat. So that resin has probably dried by now, and I'm able to say, right, that so-called cap holder, or text-to-speech cap holder, put that in the right place on the platform. Yeah, a bit of space that was available, and also switch the whole thing on. Yes, it all ran and the text-to-speech spoke, and I repositioned the platform so the solar panel is pointing out to the window so it'll get some light. Listen to the Radio 4 news, and yeah, Tony's relaxing with June, and time for bed, so that's the end of the photo trail. Tuesday the 7th of May 2024, 10.5 minutes of photos, including more than a 2-minute summary at the start, which is this. Yes, lots of things happened. I met a new friend at Maidenhead Aquatics. Pub lunch with grumpy old mates at the Duke of Edinburgh, and yeah, there we are. Stuart was driving, and they were painting lines around the place. And yeah, so enjoyable lunch there, enjoyable conversations, and we left and they were still doing the good work. Yeah, let June know we were on our way, and yeah, through the village and back home, and went to Richard and Faye's afterwards for coffee, cake, and all that, whatever that pie was. And I had a delivery from Amazon of the 12-volt water pump. We popped into Maidenhead Aquatics where I met a new friend, and the solution was simply a bit of pipe the right length and the right diameter is the key. And it didn't take long to check, yes, that pump was quite capable of just from 12 volts, and I measured the voltage and current drawn, and yeah, ended up putting it on a larger 12-volt battery so it'd run a bit longer, but it'll all end up being solar powered. Watered the grass seed a bit more, no harm, because we're getting good weather, and put the peanuts out, so plenty of peanuts at the front and at the back. And yeah, as I get to the back end of the day, looked at the closed circuit TV for the night before, starting from midnight running forward. Yes, foxes, hedgehogs, sometimes sharing the peanuts at the same time, and at the back as well. So after the closed circuit TV check, wasn't much else to do. Oh, you listen to the Radio 4 news, and so time for bed. So that's the end of the summary. So now into the photos in the order they were shot, and quite a lot of things were happening. Yeah, women back from tennis, which enabled me to check the spot tracker that's going in the boat. Yes, working on video from the day before, a bit like I'm doing right now. And yes, the tracker, anybody could see this is the spot tracker that's going into Snoopy's robot boat, but for the moment it's being carried in June's car, so whenever she takes a trip it's a means of checking it out. And then I've got my personal tracker, and assuming I'm wearing it, yes, that's where I am right now, and shows all the detail just here. And what else was happening? Well, I'm probably now ready for, yes, and there's Stuart arriving and Richard, and watched by Bentley on guard duty looking out the front window. And then we're off to the Duke of Edinburgh through Sunninghill, and when we get there guys are painting white lines and everywhere. We're doing a good job, of course, grabbing the weather while it's right. So we make our way through the back entrance, which is where we were directed. There's a record of what we ate. Yeah, lovely meals, interesting conversations, and there's the tab if you want to see it. And so yeah, we left. A bit of a manoeuvring job for Stuart get his car out. I let June know that we were on our way, coming through the village past a few landmarks, including Chapman's Ironmongers and the new Tesco Express. And so practically back, so I pop in and do one or two things before I join the lads for coffee and cake, etc. June was busy at that time cleaning up the patio, I think, and I do a quick check because it was near the hour, but the way things are, of course, yeah, a cloud came over the sun. How annoying, that's what happens. So in slower time I'm gradually moving those numerals into the proper position for the new pointer based on that globe. Yeah, a few snaps in the house. Anybody interested, look at the tracker. Yeah, there was Robin spending time at the Duke of Edinburgh. Looking at the time he was there, he probably had lunch. So, and that's where I'm going next. And there's June off to join the women in another room. Oh, that was interesting. Was it black currant and apple? I can't be absolutely sure. And So after that, I get back, and yes, there's an Amazon delivery from the order the day before of that small 12-volt electric pump. So I had a 12-volt battery there, stood not being used, small one, and that all worked, and it had enough head on it to drive that fountain as an alternative to the mains unit, which is not working at the moment for some reason we don't know. It could be a cable on the way chewed through or whatever. And yes, there's Toadie guarding June's car, because we're off to Maidenhead Aquatics. I just needed something as an adapter to go on the end of that little pump. That was only £12. We ordered another 2 afterwards. Into Maidenhead Aquatics, and I met a new friend. Chap was just visiting on business. Lovely doggy. I liked his collar. And so we come back. That's I think about a metre of that tube of the right diameter that would push on the end. And there's Toadie relaxing. So that's the solution. And then I had to, because the had a bend in it, I need to straighten it temporarily for testing. So I strapped it onto material, which it turned out it was material that had been used for a mast. And yeah, so that had enough head on it, and the amount of water it was shifting wasn't much different to the much bigger and more vulnerable mains version of the pump that we had been using for some time. So yeah, June's relaxing in the sun. I make sure tools are put back in the right place and materials into the right waste bin. Check the voltages. Yeah, and also the current flow. I think 1.6 amps. I think that I saw there. And also disguised the well, some of it was the pipe that was there originally, because I basically plugged it on. Oh, looking at the time, yes, there's the pump giving out practically as much water through the top of the fountain as the mains version did. That was my improvised solution for switching to a large car battery that was stood there, and just put some brass screws in the top of it so that I could just use small clips temporarily. There's Toadie watching. Now I thought, yes, got nice weather, so let's put a bit more moisture down on the grass seed and peat, that's not peat free soil. And yeah, so basically tidying up the piping. That was the water squirter that I was probably switching off while I was doing work, and then made sure I switched it back on afterwards. Putting peanuts out on the top bridge just outside the back, and the front porch. June's watching, I think that's a natural history type thing. And yeah, so I just looked as I've turned the tap off that was filling the pond. It might have got that round the wrong way. Anyhow, I topped the pond up and took a few snaps down the garden. Obviously the sun's getting low, so it's getting to the back end of the day. Now she's switched on to another Italian crime series, and yeah, looking at the closed circuit TV for the night before, starting from midnight running forward. Yes, it seems to be just foxes and hedgehogs. That's not all the visits, but it is typical, through to when the camera switch at 04:10 GMT to colour for the day, and then running back from midnight again, hedgehog coming for the nuts, and the fox. There's several different foxes. That's a young one, but a bit timid. And there's hedgehogs coming to the top bridge, triggering the PIR light, through to 1951 GMT when the camera switched to black and white for the night. So that's that done. Listen to the Radio 4 news, and June's watching that drama, so time for bed. So that's the end of the photo trail. Wednesday the 8th of May 2024. Over 16 minutes of photos, including this 3-minute summary at the start. Yeah, most of the time was spent doing odds and ends in the garden. Like, yeah, taking the chance and seeing, some numerals have got to be moved on the sundial. And yeah, so shifting them and gluing them in another position. So gradually getting better. And so that was one of the activities going on through the day. Oh yes, that had fallen off the telescope after many years of the plastic rotting, I suppose, so I found a bodge for that. Well, bodge, it's probably good enough to last a few more years. And yes, checking the solar power, that battery was getting low, and so the bright idea was running power from the battery that drives things like the TV. Popped round to Screwfix, got a call from Bal, I think that was, which meant we popped down there later, and yes, used the opportunity to check the spot tracker that's going into the boat. Showed where we were going, anybody could check that, just go into the Snoopy page and back here. And so that's the box that's been there for some time, and June had the bright idea for disguising the power cable to run basically, and I also hid where it was bundled up near the pump. So that's the new solution. Then we pop down to the Bansals. B6 Fox, I suspect that might be the son of Jackbox next door. Yes, had a chance to relax, have coffee and cake, and chatting, particularly with Romeo. And I left a little earlier than June and put the peanuts out, both at the front and at the back, liked by currently foxes and hedgehogs, but it changes through the year, all sorts of animals go there. And for the first time for years we had a barbecue, and we were joined by Toady. He said, oh, can I have some? So caused some amusement, and yes, quite likes that position. Well, he goes up there normally, but not normally when we're having a barbecue, and that was the first one of those we've had for years. So June was able to demonstrate her skills on the new barbecue. Then she watched Redemption, I think it is, an Italian crime drama. I popped down to the village, hopefully just to get a small amount of drink, and I ended up, due to a fortunate mistake, coming back with a lot more. It was quite heavy. June's still watching Redemption, I think it is. I'm doing the closed circuit TV check for the night. Yes, foxes and hedgehogs, both front and back, after the peanuts of course. And it often happens that the foxes let the hedgehog take priority. Don't like their noses prickled. So that's the end of the summary. And so now into the photos in the order they were shot, which will be more confusing because so many activities were going on throughout the day on the same job, if you call it a job. So yes, the pom pump is now the 12-volt battery one, and there's, yeah, it's coming up to a time where the sun was out, so I was able to check the direction of the shadows, and it shows that those numerals on the earlier part of the day needed to be shifted around. So I was able to, because they're done with that no nonsense quick glue, it's a fairly straightforward process of lifting them, typically with a chisel, and gluing it down, put things back in the right place of course. Yeah, get a chance to see another plants coming up nicely. Yes, sprinkle the lawn, grass seed. Yes, work on a video like for the day before, like I'm doing exactly now for the 8th of May. Yeah, June was at tennis with Samantha, so they got back. And yes, the tracker showed that was the trip to wherever. I lose track, literally. Right, that looks like just pointing out where the spot tracker will go in the boat, and the main thing is should be a fairly simple fit when all the wiring and connectors are in the right place. So there's the spot tracker showing Oh, that was a shopping trip, uh, and interesting emails, including from a guy who used to work at Ferranti. Nothing disclosed there, waiting for a bit more detail about him before I put him in contact with others. And yeah, so that is June on her way back from the so-called big shop at Martin's Heron on that occasion. And so I get out there before she arrives, and there she is. So that tracker works quite well. And there's the spot tracker, which is a slower update rate, but of course difference is it works pretty well worldwide, including across the Atlantic. So yes, television has been put to tennis, and I probably do a check of a few things like the spot tracker, just check that it's working properly, and yeah, there we go, update, pretty well within a few yards of the exact position, so that's good. Yeah, so what's happening there? Oh yes, another chance to do a check near 2 o'clock BST, just after, and sure enough, those positions are correct. I put those in a good few days ago, just in the numerals. So now I'll probably check in the pump, and so that battery that had been running, it was barely functioning. It dropped down quite a lot from the nominal 12 volts. So I'm looking at what solar panels I've got lying around, and I thought one thing I could do, regardless of what that battery is used for, is put solar panels on it. And so I just picked up the ones that were lying around. They were nominally 6 volt panels, so put them in series, gives you 12 volts, and I put 2 lots. So that was what I was doing there. Yeah, some glimpses of the fishes, and occasionally they're coming for the food now. Obviously the water's got a little warmer, and I think that affects their behaviour. Oh, that's the thing that June noticed had fallen off the telescope. Simply it was a it was a plastic container full of lead, and the lid part had fallen off. Had a bit of a relax for a few minutes, and yes, I found a fix for that. It was well, I say a temporary fix, but looks good enough, and it lasts a good few years. That one had lasted, I don't know how many years, 10 or 20. Right, we're looking for where can we get a power lead to run from the much better solar powered supply, and the obvious place was through South Ascot and into Screwfix. Didn't take long to get the cable. They didn't have any crocodile clips, and June also said, that's the job I need to do, which is Michelle had put her arm through the what is windbreak or something. Anyhow, so we're coming back now through Sunninghill, a few landmarks back home, and there's the spot tracker. Yes, that's what anybody can click on the Snoopy page, and there's the position of it at Screwfix, I think that was, and then back home. Yes, that's all seems to be working good. Looking out past the robot boat in the games room. Yes, that is getting very low. Yes, 4.29, so the pump is barely operating at all, not surprising. So then I check the one that's hasn't hardly been used, but it's got far more solar panels on it. That it's got a TV and a computer in there, even if they're switched off much of the time. And so what are you doing there? Just tools and materials, making mistakes probably. And the cable we got from Screwfix, I just ran it through, and sure enough it works. So now it's a question of tidying up, and the obvious bit is what do you do about where it goes across the path? Well, one could dig things up or slabs, and June had the bright idea of finding that mat. So that was a good temporary solution, if not a long-term solution. And then it was a question of tidying up. As I say, lots of things going on at the same time. That solar panel was charged up. So then we're taking a trip down to the Bansals for free coffee and cake, and of course the key thing is a bit of time with Romeo and a relax. I've been busy all day, as every day. There's Romeo. So left the women to chat, and I thought, right, I'll go back, get a bit more work done. And so what are we doing next? Oh yes, just pointing out the spot tracker again, and then making it a bit more visible, how it's going to be a simple thing of popping it in the boat when I've got the place for it already, including wiring and mechanical fittings. Put the peanuts out. There's the pump functioning reasonably well and decent voltage, 12.84 volts. And yeah, so just checking various voltages here, because we've got several things on the go, like solar panels being added to other 12 volt batteries that might be used for other things. There's the temperature coming up to whatever that was, nice and warm. Glance at the mobile, did I say mobile? At the robot boat, and that's where the spot tracker is going to go, and that job is on the list of things to be done. I'll look at June's tracker, and there's my tracker now. Yes, that one, and that shows my trip down to the village and back here. And what's next? Oh yes, 3 wise robins, so the patio. And yes, June's rustling up a barbecue for the first time for literally years. And of course it's the new barbecue, so she pointed out how Samantha could operate it as well. And Toady joined us. He said, oh, I've been up on the table quite a few times, but the first time I've seen food like that on the table. Let me check it out. So obviously it was a very pleasant day for it. And yeah, the pump's working well. That's the little 12 volt one, but running off power, I think. Yes, hello Toady. And a bit of tidying things up now. And so what am I doing now? I'm probably thinking, those wires are visible where they're bundled up near the pump. That, I say the pump, near the old one. I found those old mossy logs that I'd taken off the so-called duck pond fence, and sure enough I thought a few bits of those would be just the job to make it look natural but hide the cable. So yeah, it's just taken a few pictures of the pond in terms of the water level. It still drops a couple of inches or so. So enjoying the barbecue, and that's all now cleared away. Yes, the pump's still working well enough, and the voltage is quite reasonable there, 12.9 volts. Obviously it will rise above that, but it's nominally a 12 volt system. And that's Redemption that June's watching, and I thought, I'll pop down to the village. Took a plastic bag with me, because well, it was wine, and I ended up it was a mistake, but yeah, it was a fortunate mistake, and it was very heavy. The time I carried similar amount back, I was given a lift by Paul from opposite, probably as a reward for feeding Bentley so many times, and I picked up that battery that we'd seen lying at the side of the road unused, just dumped I suppose, or fallen down somewhere, and it checked out well. Now I'm doing the closed circuit TV check for the night, starting from midnight running forward, and at this time of year it seems to be just foxes and hedgehogs. It does vary. We've had badgers earlier in the year, and I think last year we had deer come in. Anyhow, it's the hedgehogs tend to take priority. There's one going to the top bridge just outside the lounge patio door. There's a fox, and there's a fox eating peanuts at the same time as a hedgehog. And that's when the camera switched to 0412 GMT to colour for the day. So I'm now running back from midnight. Similar sort of pattern, these aren't all the visits, of course, they're just representative. There's a hedgehog. There's Toadie on guard duty, hoping to spot a mouse, and we have seen them. 20:02 is where the camera's switched to black and white for the night. June is still watching Redemption. Time for bed, and that's the end of the photo trail. Thursday the 9th of May 2024. 13.5 minutes of photos, including this minute's summary at the start. Yes, that's Bentley relaxing. And yeah, quite a lot of work was done in the garden, centred around the solar powered pond pump. Now, checking voltages and also other batteries, adding solar panels to those. And we took a trip out to Halfords to pick up things like crocodile clips, and to Wicks, more of that cement, and you'll see why. And yes, Toadie's overseeing. Now, we had put a doormat down, but coming up with a better long-term solution for that cable, basically using the fast setting cement, and also tweaked the fountain. So we now got a spout of water that tumbles in and aerates the water in the pond. Yes, grab the chance to check the sundial directions, which are pretty good for the middle of the day, and still not sure about where I put those numbers for earlier. Yeah, checking the spot tracker, the one that's going in the boat on any trip we make, including back home. All seems to be working well, so that's going into the boat. And yeah, had a barbecue at the back end of the day. That was the, or for me, cheeseburger. Yeah, temperatures above 20. And yes, how do we stop mice getting at those cables? Maybe it's peppermint spray, but I used it all up that June had. So that's on the list. Put the peanuts out at the back and at the front. And June, yes, I did the update of the COVID graph, and yes, that TSO hosting, I managed to update it. So fingers crossed. And yeah, foxes and an owl. And an owl looked to be waiting for a mouse appearing, and they do appear on the bridge, and swept down. And of course they're very blurred frames, and it was very difficult to say, well, did he catch the mouse? But it didn't seem spend any time. And then I saw the little eyes of a mouse shortly after, so I think he got away. And the hedgehogs come in, of course. So yeah, that was the closed circuit TV checks for the night before, or summary. Listen to the Radio 4 news. June's watching Redemption. Time for bed. So that's the end of the summary. So now in the photos in the order they were shot, starting with Bentley, spends a few hours sleeping in the laundry basket, and that's in the utility room, and I can see work's needed there. It's all a matter of priorities. And yeah, those temporary mirrors show up nicely. You can see out that the trees and things, including wildlife in the trees. But what do we got here? Well, yes, some of my junk's accumulating because I'm doing work on things, but at least the games room is a little better than it was, and it's not getting a lot worse. Most of the work was out in the garden, if you call it work. So grab the chance. Yes, I stopped filling the pond, and yes, so that solar powered water pump for the pond is sort of working, and so I'm doing checks on that in terms of voltage checks. And of course also we've got those other batteries, including the one that I found when I walked down to the village. So it wasn't a big job to add quickly some solar panels onto that, check the voltages, put them in a position to charge up, and we might and see what current we've got. And so I can see we may have some other water features solar powered. Yeah, so that's quite a lot of checks on those. and they seem to be okay. So host of little 12-volt batteries, so not only big car batteries, we've got the smaller ones. Yeah, June's got the television on there. Bentley's still sleeping in the laundry basket. Oh yes, update of a day's worth of photo video, as I'm doing for yesterday's now. And I was looking for a solution to make it look better, and all I had was white sealant. At least that's all I could find, white silicone sealant. So I did a bodge with duct tape, black duct tape, but it wasn't a good solution. A few snaps of the garden, including the Gunner Romanticata coming up. Yes, whatever that was, 12:30 GMT, 1:30 BST. That looked good. Looked like I just turned the water off. It was topping up the pond, and the water squirter, some vegetation had to be cleared because that was triggering the water squirter, a little breeze. Yeah, June's playing her video games and watching TV, and I thought, look, I tried that. It wasn't a good idea, but I thought, oh, some black paint over the white sealant, that wasn't a good solution. There's Bentley's out now, prowling, and then I found, tucked away in the workshop, some black silicone sealant. Not a lot, but enough. Oh yeah, another check at 2 o'clock GMT, 3 o'clock BST, and that's pretty well bang on in terms of the direction of the shadow, but I'm not so sure as you come back earlier in the day. So I'm looking at the reference sundial to see what directions from the pointer. Not absolutely sure, but not to worry. There's Bentley, found another position underneath the fort number 3 in the back garden. And so now I'm thinking that cable that just runs along the back there, I was wondering the best thing to do, and perhaps the solution is, before cementing it, just sort of pin it into the right place, but with screws going through the cracks in the tiles, and then that fast cement. And the only thing is that I used that, all that I had of that. I only had about half a cat tin, or plastic tin. So we take a trip out through the village, a few landmarks. Yes, past the ruins, and that's Holloway's College, I think, and Halfords. Pick up crocodile clips, because quite a lot of these solutions are batteries, and also the fast set-in cement, ready mixed. Past Holloway College on the way back home, and the ruins, and coming into Berkshire, and yes, some interesting places en route, including Crossways, where June's family lived before she was born, I think, and the Maris School. Oh yes, that was the D-Day party in the park advertised. I think that's going to be at the Victory Field. Yes, past a few shops in the village, back home, and there's Bentley sunbathing. There's the spot tracker that's going in the boat. So yeah, do a check. Anybody can check it. Click here on the robot boat page, and sure enough, it showed where the car had visited with a tracker in it, including back home. Yeah, so that was good. And then I also checked my personal tracker, which updates far more often, and of course is only GSM mobile phone based rather than SATCOMs that go across the Atlantic. But that was all working as well. Anybody could see where that was. Yeah, and there we are back here. So yes, there's the robot boat, and June's relaxing in the sunshine, so is Toadie, and there's the carpet, no, mat I suppose, that was put down as a temporary solution over the cable. And we don't really have much water splash into the pond, because that solar powered small DC motor pump it's not quite as much. So anyhow, get on with the, yes, chipping out the cement there, tuck in the cable into the gap, and then cementing over it. Fairly easy job with that rapid setting cement. Yeah, June's watching the TV. I'm having a bit of relax. I think I can tweak that where the water comes out from the top of the fountain, and it was quite simple. Just put a bit of tube in it, tweaked it so that it splashes down into the pond. June's rustling up our second barbecue. Weather's lovely for it. Hamburger, and Samantha's taken hers into the kitchen, and we're out in the lovely weather watching things. Like the temperature, what was that? Looked like 22 degrees centigrade. And yes, how are we going to solve this problem of the, which we can expect will happen, of the mice nibbling the cables? And we looked it up, and June said, I have got some peppermint thing, and you certainly smell it, but I used it all up. So put the peanuts out, both on the back and at the front. So we've got plenty of those. And June's coming in and watching Redemption, I think it is, Italian mystery. Then it was rather late in the day, but the ONS had released their graph, and so I was able to update that on the COVID page. And that was the case where I was able to use the TSA hosting, despite the problems due to acquisitions, essentially. But that was very promising, and obviously in contact with the support guys on that front. And yes, foxes and hedgehogs coming for the peanuts. Hedgehogs tend to take priority, but they all managed to eat them. There's a hedgehog on the back, at the back near the top bridge, triggering the PIR light. And there's an owl. That's not the first time that they perched up there, looking down, almost certainly looking for mice. And so yes, sure enough, there's a mouse triggering the PIR, and that has certainly been seen by the owl. Yeah, there he is, his eyes. So the owl swoops down, they're very blurred, and there's only several frames, shows the whole process of the owl swooping down, and it barely looked as though he paused. And so whether the mouse had managed to duck away, I wasn't sure. But shortly after, there was the glint of the mouse eyes in about the right place. So I reckon he got away with it. The mouse escaped. Jolly good. 0407 GMT is where the camera's switched to colour for the day. So I'm now going back from midnight. There's Toadie on guard duty, also hoping to catch a mouse, but those mice are quite clever. And there's a hedgehog, and that's the camera switching at 2000, 8 o'clock GMT, to black and white for the night. Listen to the Radio 4 news. June's watching Redemption. Time for bed, so that's the end of the photo trail. Friday the 10th of May 2024. Nearly 17 minutes of photos, including less than 3 minutes summary at the start. Yeah, lots of things happened. Different mix than usual. The spot tracker that's been tested in the car is destined to go into the boat. And yes, I also did some of the work on the video from the day before, exactly like I'm doing now, and made a good bit of progress on the garden. Getting all these things done at short notice, grabbing the opportunities like the sun being out, 12 o'clock, midday, and yeah, so have I got that exactly right? I think I had, more or less. And yeah, we took a trip out to Hilliers to get some seeds, but June got a call. I think that was from Saskia, related to the next day, and I picked up that stuff to deter mice from chewing cables. And key thing is that the cable now, which is operating the 12-volt pump is covered by cement, then clay and soil and seeds, and hopefully that fleabane seed will pop up. Yeah, the fishes are beginning to feed. Yeah, a lot of hard work. And yes, that looks like the women off to tennis again, or they just back probably. And yeah, so the tracker, that is, it's all down to the mechanics, and a bit of plywood, the right thickness, that was the key, is somewhere for the mount for the spot tracker to go on. And of course I want to get that right before doing the much simpler job of the wiring. And yeah, I had trouble with the camera, it basically running out of power, having to keep charging it up. Put the peanuts out, front and the back, and Toadie's watching the tennis, and that is I can't remember, it was the Italian drama that June's been watching. And yeah, there's the foxes and the hedgehog front and back. And that black and white cat, I haven't seen that one before. Got a glimpse of him, so there's another cat on the block. And yeah, quick glance at the boat, and Toadie hoping to catch a mouse, and a crescent moon appearing. So yeah, she's still watching that, and time for bed. So that's the end of the summary, and now into the photos in the order they were shot. And because so many things are happening in parallel, the photos may not make as much sense. But yes, there's the spot tracker, which when they got back I was saying, right, I can do a bit of work on the boat, which is really the mechanical process. But before that I just checked that it's working, and yes, that is, it's only a little tiny solar panel, but it's enough to keep it going because it's not moving that often. And yeah, that's the video for the day before, so recording the commentary like I did have done now, and looking at that is already concreted in place, the cable from the day before. But I fancy the idea of encouraging, well, things fleabane to grow there, and the approach I thought was just looking around for bits of, oh yes, it was really to hold things in place when I did the work, hold the cable in place. And yeah, June's rustling up lunch, scrambled egg on toast with salmon. Temperature, yeah, coming up comfortably, what's that, about 22 centigrade. And yeah, looked at the direction of the sun, that looked like just after 12 o'clock midday. And yes, I'm not sure that position was right, but that's all the reason we keep checking it. Right, so that's where the cable comes from across the path. There's, as I say, several jobs on the go at the same time. The other thing is looking at where the spot tracker goes, and we thought we'd take a run out, even though we're short on time because June had another tennis session in the afternoon. So we thought, right, we'd get some seeds, and yes, we'd check the tracker at the same time, but that's just a little spin off. So through the village, and I think I popped into Ascot Hardware, if I remember, while June topped up with petrol. Yeah, that's what I was doing there. And I did actually find that so-called big cheese, a peppermint spray, I think, discouraging mice. But we ran out of time because June said, no, I've got to get back for tennis. So we would have gone to Oak Tree Garden Centre, but she said, well, we've got time to just go on to one of the garden centres on the A30. So we went into Hilliers, and yeah, Jim got a call, I think that was from Saskia, while we were looking at the seeds. Came away with the Urging or fleabane, and I also picked up some poppies. So passed a few landmarks on the way home, and reminder of that, the D-Day party in the park. And yeah, back home, into the house, put things on the table ready for the work. And yeah, so I'm saying, but we didn't actually take what we planned to do, but that's the spot tracker showing where we did go, which was Hilliers and then back home, and anybody can see that. And that's the anti-mouse stuff. Doesn't do any harm, it just deters them. They don't like the smell of peppermint. And yeah, so I sprayed that wherever there were cables visible to mice. It's not quite a nice smell. And then popped it back in the utility room with other similar stuff of June's, and got the broom out, probably for sweeping the area where I'd already concreted. And yeah, saw the fish in the pond, put the broom back in the right place, and now get the seeds out. So that's fleabane, and also fire cement. I found some of that, which is a sort of a clay, and a lot of it had gone, but I mixed some water with it, so it was a little easier to smear. So I thought I'd smear that on the concrete before then sprinkling the well, it's peat-free moss. No. Well, it's soil essentially, and then they're very tiny little seeds. So it's not an easy process, but I essentially did the best I could to sprinkle them along, and then I used my foot, my shoe, to rub the soil. Compost, I think the right word is. Peat-free compost is what I was using. It may not have been the ideal stuff, but it was not bad. Then the poppy seeds. So you say, right, well, I always fancied the idea of poppies in the garden, which in recent years they've just not got them to take. And so I thought, one of the packets of seeds can be left for June, and she might plant them out, which is what you're supposed to do, get seedlings. But some of them I'm going to put directly down, hoping that they take. So I found two patches, one just the other side of the stream and one just there. Popped a bit of the soil in and the seeds, and then gave it a good sprinkle. And while I had the sprinkler out, the hose out, yes, mind, hello Toadie, watching what I was doing. And there's the fish actually feeding. Yes, quite hard work. And yeah, there's the women at tennis. That's the second patch of tennis. So checking the trackers, yes, that's them. So at least when they start coming back, I'll get, yes, they're already on their way back. So I can make myself look busy or whatever. And that's where they're destined to come to. So they're practically home now. So they should be outside soon. So go out, and there they are arriving. So that was a second session of tennis. They thought it was going to be a match. So there wasn't a match, but they had a game or two. And there's the tracker. That's the one of the trackers, the so-called SOS tracker. And that's the Spot Satcoms tracker, the one's destined to go on the boat. So I took that out. It's only just stuck in there, because then the key things are its dimensions and shape, so it fits in the right place. This is where the tracker's always gone on the robot boat for years, but of course you're trying to do things better each time if you can, rather than worse. So yes, the other thing is I noticed that the fountain had stopped, I think. So check the voltages of the batteries. Yes, 11.97, below the nominal 12 volts, so not really good. So swap the leads that go to the 12 volt pump onto a different battery, and still that one doesn't look very good either. And yeah, that one looked good. There's several batteries there, and we've got a nice sprinkle aerating the water, so that'll do. There's a solution, but he said, yeah, make sure that those things are left on charge. A lot of these things can be tidied up. They're 12.7, that's pretty healthy. And what's happening now? Well, I think that's pretty well done in terms of the seas. So a bit more work on the robot boat. Yes, right. We had the bit of wood. I sawed that back to create space, and that's the same wood that the rudder servo screws onto. So I just made a bit more space, and I thought, right, what materials have I got lying around? And it was roughly an old measure, about 2 inches by 3 inches, to fit into the gap after the gap had been made a bit wider. But the key thing is, there was only a very small amount of clearance from the rudder servo linkage and the spot tracker. So that thickness of plywood, which was 2 sheets glued together, was to be too thick. So what am I going to do about that, he says. Well, June's rustling up the barbecue by the look of it, but don't tell her. Oh, I know. It was, the question was, how did I glue them together? And the answer was smelly isopon resin, fast glass, very smelly. And so obviously I'd had openings, but I had a bright idea. Oh, I can. There's clothes pegs used to hold the 2 bits of plywood together, but I can also stick it up on a washing line, well away from the house. And so now we're having the evening barbecue dinner. Very pleasant out there. And yeah, so that's dry. So I became more aware of that, measured voltages and things, yeah, much too low. And so swapped wires around, and sure enough, got a good flow, 12.67 volts on that battery. So that'll do for now. And of course, all the time one's testing these things to see what's a good solution, and it can be tidied up or improved. Back to the spot tracker, and it's still very fine, that gap. And so, oh yeah, I went into the workshop, I think, for making, yeah, doing a bit of work on it. That's close-ups there, so you can see when the servo swings in one direction, it's a bit tight. There's a separate thing of the wiring, but that's a completely separate job. First thing, you have to find the right place for it to locate. So I think, right, put that back in the car so it's tested, because it's easy to come out and put it in the prepared place when the place is prepared. Don't forget, he says, probably putting tools back in the right place. Oh, there's Toadie made an appearance. And yes, that camera had been playing up. There's a shutter problem and power related to that. And put the peanuts out on the back porch and at the front porch. Did I say back porch? I meant the top pond at the back. Yeah, so she's trying to remember the name of that program. Italian crime drama. And then the foxes, not all the visits, but typical. There's a hedgehog as well, coming for the peanuts. The experienced foxes tend not to argue with the. And 0405 GMT is when the camera switched to colour for the day. So I'm now running back from midnight. There's a hedgehog, and there's the back porch. There's a fox. I keep calling it the back porch. It's the patio at the back, and it's the top bridge just outside the lounge patio door. There's me popping out. So, and there's that black and white cat that I hadn't seen before. And yeah, that's the things triggering the PIR, all sorts of things that do that. And 2004 GMT is when the cameras switch to black and white for the night. So June's still watching the TV. I have another look at the boat, and yes, there was Toadie hoping to catch a mouse. Yes, so there was a crescent moon, And yeah, that's about it. So time for bed, and that's the end of the photo trail. Saturday the 11th of May 2024, 19 minutes of photos, including this 3-minute summary at the start. Yes, quite a lot of the material is very familiar, including trips around the garden and the animals and wildlife, because Robin continues to tweak different things in the garden. Yes, that'll be clear enough. And of course, June and Samantha tennis while Robin doing work, including a bit more work on the boat. And of course, they got the Spot Satcoms tracker in the car temporarily, so that was used to test that. And the main event was a trip up to Raunds to see, well, a family get together around the new baby, 2 months old. And I've got to be very careful, I'm told, not to include a photo of the baby in the photo trail, but everything else is okay. I think that one is going to have to be modified. And yes, so what else? That's the trip up. Yeah, I took photos whenever I saw interesting graffiti on a bridge, but I difficult to know what's artistic graffiti and what's not. Yeah, so we get back. I also checked out some of the strengths and weaknesses of the Google Maps sat-nav, and tennis on the television, of course, and June lights up the barbecue for another evening meal. And I take the Spot tracker out of the boat, and well, I don't actually out of the boat, no, that's where it's going in the boat. That work had been done the day before, and check the tracker. Yes, and that all worked. And then my own Spot tracker, yeah, that shows the trip up there in detail, including wherever I walked, and back home just here. Habanero barbecue, and Samantha likes to eat it in the kitchen. And yeah, so that was enjoyable. Saw the sun going down, took the direction of the sun, and that said, perhaps I can estimate, looks as though that's about an hour out. So something to be done in longer term. Put out the peanuts for the wildlife, and there was a surprise visit, a lovely visit from the Bansells. And so it wasn't much more than 15 minutes, I think, but enjoyable time, and chatting and showing them things. And yeah, so then, and of course, I listened to the Radio 4 News, and it was the Eurovision Song Contest. So I did the closed circuit TV check. That actual check had been done earlier. I think the photos were done a bit later. Yes, usual things, including Toadie on guard duty, hoping to catch a mouse. And the Eurovision Song Contest is on, so that made it a late night. And Switzerland won, United by Music. Yeah, it'd be nice if that applied. So, end of the summary, and now into the full photo trail in the order the photos were shot. So yes, one of the trackers shows them at the tennis court. I'm doing odds and ends in the garden, generally, and I'm using the opportunity to take a trail. Yeah, there's the temperature climbing up towards 20, and yes, looks like the pump is working there. That's the little DC pump, but lots of little odds and ends on the go. Yes, so I think I sprinkled a bit more water down on the seeds that have been planted above the cable. Oh yes, coming up for 10 o'clock BST, which is 9 o'clock, and so looked at the direction of the shadow, and it's fairly easy to move the numbers because they're not screwed in, they're glued in. And took a walk down the garden, just see everything gradually coming along. including the bog garden and the gum romanticata, giant rhubarb, and the hawthorn beginning to blossom. That's hopefully to encourage birds to nest there. And yeah, just have a quick roam round everything that's coming up. Yeah, looking up the garden, that's where a lot of the stuff is kept. Yes, including junk, but some of that junk is useful junk. It's all a matter of knowing where things are. That's one of the reasons why they're put on display. And of course these photo trails are partly for the possibility of helping others help me. Could be advice, or actually helping to do some practical work to get on top of things. We are on top of the garden now, but the whole house needs a lot of work. It's mostly putting stuff in the right place so it can be found, and throwing away the stuff that isn't needed, as opposed to the stuff that could be useful or is useful. So that's June's greenhouse. And what else have we got? Yeah, just looking at roam round, coming round to the front again, and the dustbin hide, and yes, the cat fort. Yeah, one of the flowers coming up nicely. Wouldn't necessarily recognise them. So that's at the front with the, yes, sculpture that June got me for a birthday present practically 3 years ago now. Roses coming up nicely on the corner, the rhododendrons in flower. And yes, I thought that seed I'd put down and compost, I could afford to give it another water to encourage it, because that was very much prone to moss, that front lawn. So there's the tracker showing them at the tennis club. Yeah, glimpse of the robot boat. So that's where the Spot Satcom tracker is going, and yes, that is working, even though all it's got is a small solar panel, just enough to keep it topped up, but it doesn't move very often. Oh, you're doing the commentary for the day before, like I'm doing for this one. And what else have we got? Well, it looks like they're back now. And yeah, the spot tracker's working, and that's our planned trip up to fairly soon. It's coming up to the time we've got to leave, and some interesting emails came in, all a matter of doing things in the right priority. So don't need my warm suit because it's lovely warm weather. So we're off on our trip up north. It's through the village first. A few landmarks in the village. Many have been here a long time. Past the school, St Michael's, where the Ponsfords and then Lovelocks went, other than Robin of course, and June. Yeah, basically anything worth seeing as a landmark, might be a well-known pub to us at least, and onto the motorway. And the things that caught me is the graffiti, and some of it looked like business graffiti, but you can't be sure, and you need to check it out. Very well done. Yeah, there was me looking thoughtful. Could be some of the instructions on Google Maps, sat-nav, were not perfect, and I realised that was almost certainly the gathering of the data that it uses rather than the logic of the software, but you can't be sure of anything. Yeah, so just sat-nav makes it a bit easy, and yeah, so we're getting close now. Yeah, so we've arrived, and June parks the car. I take my Chromebook out. I didn't spend much time on it, but it enabled me to do a quick 1 or 2 checks, including whether, for example, an important email had come in. and I do get those occasionally. Yes, that was a chat to the others that were on their way. So basically it was a family group, essentially, yes, checking another tracker. Anybody interested could say, where's Robin? Oh, that's where his tracker is. And that seemed to be working fine. Yes, well, we're going to have to fuzz out the picture of the baby, I think. But anyhow, you have to fit with people's wishes, even if they're living in sweet ignorance of what the situation is with security on the net. But not to worry, there's me whittering on. Yeah, so I think I'd use the Chromebook just to check that. Looked at emails, and yes, some interesting conversations going on. Obviously a lot of pictures were taken in the garden and shared within the family on WhatsApp. I'd caught that was the same product that I bought cheaply. A lovely food, rustled up. I think that was mostly my sister Sally, but I can't be sure. And yes, very artistic, some of it. So enjoyable time in their lovely back garden. And yes, there we go. And of course some of the time people say, no, let's take some photos of the family just for passing around on WhatsApp. Although June tells me that pictures of herself and other family pictures, they're quite happy to be public on some media. She wasn't sure which. So I think that's yeah, so we're leaving. There's a pussycat appeared. But yeah, so we're on our way back. Not much of interest. The sun's gradually going down. Just whenever I see a bit of graffiti and there's a chance, I take a snap of it. Oh yes, going past Luton Airport. That was fairly well signed. And yeah, we decided to take the usual route back after around the M25. That's plane coming into Heathrow, I think, or leaving Heathrow. And again, some of the landmarks. There's Royal Holloway College, and so we're coming into Sunninghill now. Yes, or are we? No, we're not quite there. That's that was Crossways where June lived, and that's yeah. Now we're coming into Sunninghill and entering the village. The Cords Hall, Jade Fountain, or the Jade, Sun Cafe, Chapman's, Barbershop, Comrades Club, and into our place, and it says, isn't it clever, welcome home. So we got back okay, and there's Bentley. It was a bit too sunny for him, so he was sheltering under his car on the opposite side of the road. He normally comes over for all sorts of things. And yes, they put the tennis on in the kitchen, and I went outside, checked. Yes, that pump seemed to have stopped. No surprise. So it's a matter of swapping. That thing can be tidied up, but checking voltages, and yes, it was down below the voltage it should be. So one of those spare batteries, as I say, needs to be tidied up, but at least it shows the strengths and limitations of the products we're using. June's decided to rustle up the barbecue, and I've been having trouble with that camera, so I needed to find a solution for charging that up. And the spot tracker is the one that's going into the boat, and of course the previous day I prepared a platform for it, but I had to put the cable in. But then I checked, right, let's look at it. Anybody visiting the link on the Snoopy page could see the history as well as detail where the tracker stopped. Because the tracker was in the car, that's essentially where the car was, and that was all looking good. Then my personal tracker and the difference is it updates more often, and yeah, back to where we are here. So that's good. June's still getting barbecue, and I took a few snaps down the garden. Sun was getting low. Not sure when I took the pictures, so I think, not sure what I'm quizzing about then. Maybe what the rush is for the barbecue. But so June's having the pasta bine, having all the other stuff. I didn't need that warm jacket. Oh yes, I swapped into the warmer jacket. It was pleasant enough. And then I saw the direction of the sun, so I could get an accurate direction at whatever time that was. You can't really see anything on the sundial, but you can see the geometry of the sundial. And I reckon that the direction would have mean those numbers weren't right about an hour out. But that's a job to be done later. No rush at all. June's doing a usual combination of watching tennis on the telly and having a cornetto, and of course we've got Eurovision on. So put out the peanuts at the front, and that's the front, and that was at the back as well. And then there's that surprise visit. Very welcome and good timing. So young Daman and his dad Raj, and Bal and Mandeep. So yes, they made most welcome. The timing was perfect. So we were able to enjoy that. And so they were only there for about 15 minutes, but very enjoyable. Oh yes, there was a video chat between them and their family group. That was lovely as well, including interaction between Daman and the family. Yes, there's Toadie relaxing, and I listen to the Radio 4 news, whatever time it's probably about 10 o'clock in the evening, BST, and do the closed circuit TV check. I might have done the check earlier, and he's just taken the photographs a bit later. And so there's foxes both at the back and on the top bridge after the peanuts, and not all the visits through till 0403 GMT in the morning when the camera switched to colour for the day, and now going backwards from midnight. Yes, he taken some pictures of the moon, and Toadie probably hoping to catch a mouse. That's what Toadie's there for. And through till 2007 GMT when the camera switched to black and white for the night. So yeah, did a bit of rearranging of the furniture because that was blocking the view of the top bridge. So that was pretty well it there. Watching the Eurovision, and of course getting to the interesting bit, and Switzerland were clearly going to win, and so oh yes, that was got to follow up on that. Hopefully those trackers will continue to do good work. And Toadie's out there just live watching for a mouse. So nothing other than Eurovision results starting to come in. Yes, looks like Switzerland united by music. Yes, time for bed. So that's the end of the photo trail.
I'm surprised you played it this far. I warned you it would be a long lot of photo trails. And June's relaxing in the garden, and so we're about to wind this up, as you'll be glad to know, but I'll first of all let you hear the startup of the robot boat, because it tells you the version number of the software and other things.
Snoopy's X28X2 GPS only autopilot. Software version Romeo. Last update 6th of December 2017.
6th of December 2017.
GPS time 13:21, 35 seconds. Target Alpha, 11 kilometers, at 349 degrees. GPS course 80, speed 0.3 knots.
That'll do. and pop that there. So out of the games room, and we're going to go into material now that was shot, it was last year, which deals with two subjects: global warming and the prophetic words of James Lovelock, and my experiences with the DVLA and my suggestions and what might be done on that front to help lots of people, not so much myself. So yes, that's the little camera that I've been using, and that's the expensive artwork. Oh, and I think I started that earlier clip at about here. Now what I put on the screen, because global warming is in itself, it's something that's been on my grumpy page for years. The remarkable James Lovelock, who passed away on the 26th of July, his 103rd birthday. I'll read out what this says here. This has been on the grumpy page for years, not long after the publication of his book, Revenge of Gaia. We can't stop global warming, but we may delay it by a few decades to give us time to prepare for its effects. Vast areas of the world, including as close as continental Europe, becoming arid desert, shrinking of habitable areas of the planet to much smaller parts of the planet, closer to the poles. The Earth will then only be able to support a small fraction of its present population, and there will be a need for massive migration. Places like the UK will remain temperate a little longer, so be an attractive destination. We need all world governments to cooperate to prepare for this inevitability. Also to agree things like reduce use of fossil fuels to give us a few more decades to prepare. And then it goes on. The above is not a quote, but how I remember what James Lovelock said in his book, The Revenge of Gaia, etc. That's been unchanged on my site for years. And right, well, the other thing I should mention, yes, retired happy and spending that kid's inheritance, is for some time now I've not been able to drive due to, well, several mistakes at the DVLA. And what I will say is that I have new evidence of what happened inside the DVLA, which I won't publish yet because I'm still waiting for the reply to the letter which was delivered by recorded delivery to the head of the DVLA and also other people. So I'll put in at the end of this long video the video that's gone up, me talking about the DVLA, and basically in summary it says I don't want anybody to get into trouble, and that is definitely the case, and resigning is too easy. Problems need to be fixed. But quite honestly, that is a minor thing compared with all the other things that are going on in the world, not least wars, and of course what's in the background and very important is global warming. So let's run into that. Back in 2012.
We've seen the launch of a transatlantic sailing attempt this morning in a model boat. Retired NATO scientist Robin Lovelock launched his Snoop Loop from Barton-on-Sea towards the Bahamas. It's already been tested over 5,000 miles on a lake in Berkshire. The model will be steered and tracked through a satellite system and by Snoopy, of course, and it should make the crossing in 6 months, if it survives, that is.
The most important thing of the lot, of course, is Snoopy the Viking, the skipper. I don't think he'd make it otherwise. We've also got another bit and piece here. This is a GPS logger that logs the position every 15 minutes. That was back in 2012. The guy that put this material together, including the live broadcast and what went up on the BBC website, is Ben Moore.
I just worry for Snoopy. Sport now and Hampshire.
Right, on to the next topic. Right. Now, I'm going to do this all in one take. All unrehearsed and unscripted, so sorry about that. What I'd like to happen, if anybody picks up on the DVLA story is, as I say, nobody getting into trouble, and that's a genuine request. But when they find flaws in procedures where they don't cover certain things, be good if those are fixed. What I think would be useful for anybody looking at the DVLA and perhaps helping them is, first of all, their organisation chart showing the structure. Yes, it's well known who the head of the DVLA, remarkable woman, looking at her CV, and relevant to this story is the head of the health part. But it would be very useful to see, even if names aren't attached, obviously the names can be attached where they're public already, is how many people in each branch, how many people are reporting to how many. So a simple tree would help. I suggest that first of all. Then, perhaps even more important, is how many people working for the DVLA, even if you don't identify the individuals, are salaried by the DVLA excuse me, directly, as opposed to contracted through an agency or a business. That is very important, and we've seen what's been happening in places like the NHS for years. So that comes into the equation in terms of whether money is well spent, and of course the DVLA collects a lot of money, and there are probably other things as well. But as a starting point, I'd hope anybody that responds to this, I can't afford to get overloaded, we've got other things to do, many other things to do, and we'll be taking a holiday. That'll be public, yes. I'm tracked everywhere by different things, and in fact, if anybody's paranoid about it, anybody who's tracking somebody or looking at somebody's probably seen already. But at the end of the day, there's me wittering on, which is one of my main weaknesses since I was a little child. That's why if you put things up, clearly be careful what you put up, and often it can do some good. I'm now in the kitchen, and June's rustling up some food in the microwave for Samantha, and here's Samantha, and of course there's tennis on the television, just for a change. So, oh yes, point out, holidays in we're going off to Sicily again soon, and into the hall. Yes, nice expensive paintings here. Yep, expensive little pocket camera, not expensive. And through into the lounge and out to wrap up this video by saying, look after yourselves, stay safe, and enjoy what days we have. Yes, it's now middle of March 2024, and the pond's changed quite a bit. I'll have to change the copyright statement at the end, but the message is the same. Look after yourselves, stay safe, and enjoy life while we can. Oh yeah, my hair's grown a bit since then.